He's Peter King from Sports Illustrated, the mmqb.com, and Peter joins us here on the show. What do you think of that poll question, Peter?
Well, I'll tell you this. I mean, there are so many different ways to ask that question. I guess I would turn it around and just ask you this question. I mean, in my mind, when you're talking about this subject, I don't think there's any easy answer. I just don't think it's an easy yes or no answer. And I hate to beg off, but I just don't think at this point it's a very easy answer.
Well, to me, Peter, the bigger pressure, the more pressure has got to be on Tony Romo just because of his age. At 34 years old, Dalton's 27. He's got a little bit longer to play. This might be it for Tony Romo. He might not have a team this good around him.
I guess you're right, but I also would look at it like, do you remember last year when Andy Dalton lost to San Diego, played terribly? We're talking about the sky was falling, and obviously the sky falling in Cincinnati is a rain shower compared to the sky falling in Dallas, which is a torrential thunderstorm. So it is different. I do understand that, but I think in some ways you underestimate, even though Andy Dalton will have more chances, if he bombs in his fourth consecutive playoff game, I'm not saying the Bengals won't bring him back next year, but I'm saying this will basically be the last straw for a lot of their fans.
Any reaction last night, Peter, from NFL types watching that Oregon-Florida State game?
I haven't talked to anybody yet about it, but clearly there were 5 NFL general managers at that game. And it wasn't exactly a wonderful showcase for Jameis Winston. It reminds me really of, I said this on Football Night in America on Sunday. I talked to 5 either general managers or personnel guys in the last couple of weeks and just asked them about Mariota versus Jameis Winston, and it was 5-0 for Mariota. And the refrain I kept hearing was that Winston basically didn't have a very good year, played careless football, made too many mistakes, and and again, I realize that's a totally fluky slip and fumble and touchdown for Oregon that basically was the last straw in that game, but that just seems to be a lot of what happened to Jameis Winston this year.
Peter, can the Cardinals win with Ryan Lindley?
Well, Kay, I mean, if their defense was playing a lot better right now, I would say yes. And who knows? They're not playing the 27 Yankees, or the 65 Packers. They're playing a 7-8-1 team. I'll say this about Carolina. Carolina is getting healthier. Carolina actually is getting a little bit better, and so I like Carolina in the game. But Bruce Arians does some fun things in games like this, and I think that Arians will have a few tricks up his sleeve. He did last week with the flea flicker that gave Arizona their first touchdown in that game against San Francisco. And so you never know, but I would be surprised if Arizona went there and won.
Doug Marrone opts out of Buffalo. Where does he end up, Peter?
Gut feeling is the Jets. Hard for me to imagine that a guy would have left a contract with 2 years to go, even though he got handed a check for $4 million. It's really one of the more amazing contract clauses in history. You can coach somewhere for 2 years and then have an out in the contract. And it's fine. I understand having an out in the contract if there's an ownership change. That's fine. They'll pay you to not coach for a year on your way out the door when you jilt them. That's a bizarre thing. But I mean, clearly, there's no question in my mind that they are. The Jets are very interested in him, and it seems like the most logical place for him to go.
Peter King of MMQB joining us here on the DP Show. Rex Ryan, San Francisco, Atlanta, or the TV booth?
Rex is an acquired taste, as you guys know. And to me, I think it's going to be what happens in the course of an interview with him. See, when he goes to San Francisco, he better have an answer for what he's going to do with Colin Kaepernick, because that is the keystone. Their defense is going to be okay. They're going to get healthy. He just doesn't seem like a good fit there. I think Mike Shanahan is a much better fit in San Francisco, or even Kyle Shanahan for that matter. Guys who basically have worked with quarterbacks, and done well with quarterbacks. And I guess I would sort of look at Rex and say, to me, it sounds to me like the best job for him is Atlanta, particularly if he brings a good quarterback guru with him to work with Matt Ryan. They have a ready-made offense there, and their defense has been the problem. I mean, Rex in Atlanta seems like a natural fit. He's not necessarily, a perfect guy for like a Thomas Dimitroff, but the general manager, but Dimitroff isn't even assured of keeping his job. So I think Atlanta sounds the most logical for Rex.
Get you out of here with this, Peter. Jim Harbaugh is now at Michigan. If I give you an over-under of 3.5 years for Jim Harbaugh at Michigan.
Over. Definitely over. I think, I do understand that he has a short shelf life. I get it. I got it. I've seen it happen. We've all seen it happen. I think this is a little bit different. This is going back to his roots. Every day of his life, this guy quotes Bo Schembechler. It was a huge, huge part of his life to be able to play for Bo. I think he wants to return Michigan to prominence, to greatness. I don't see him staying there for 3 years and then taking $1 jillion from somebody in the NFL. I think he's going to hang at Michigan for a while. How many years, I don't know. And do I think he'll ever coach in the NFL again? Probably he will. But I also wouldn't be surprised if this was his 15-year place in Ann Arbor.
Will he be pursued every year by an NFL team?
It'll probably be a lot like Nick Saban. Every year somebody asks Nick Saban, are you interested? And if he is interested, they're going to, even if they get a little sniff, they're going to go after him. So I would say yes, assuming that he doesn't run Michigan into the ground, which he won't do. He's a great coach. I would assume that every year they'll at least ask him, and every year I think he'll probably say no.
Good to visit with you, Peter. Appreciate the time, and enjoy the weekend.
All the best, guys. Thank you.
That's Peter King, the MMQB.com here on the Dan Patrick Show.